welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video we're going to dive into the world of easy DIY bridge scenery building that will take your wargaming and role-playing tables to the next level. So get ready to transform your tabletop with a stunningly realistic bridge that's not only simple to create but also budget friendly. So gather your materials and let's embark on this exciting journey together as we bring your miniature worlds to life with an eye-catching bridge that's sure to impress your fellow gamers. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. So as you can see, we're starting off by just using matchsticks. My local store, I just brought a bag of them. I think it was about $5 for probably about 100 of them in the bag. Really cheap and easy. And again, I'm not chopping them down, I'm just using the full width of them, because as you know, with most of my projects, I try and make them multi-scalable. So yep, why make it only suitable for 6mm or only suitable for 28 when you can try and get them to work for multiples? Or at least that's my thinking. As you can see here, I am just chopping these little sticks here because they're going to be the supports for the bridge planks themselves. And with this bridge, it's not just going to be a single. I'm going to be using it so it can be a pontoon bridge. So if you've got a game where your troops have to ford a river, if it's going to take, say, 3 turns or 6 turns, you can put a chunk in and then another chunk and then a final chunk once the bridge is complete. And likewise, as it takes damage, you can make it fall apart. So it brings your engineers into the game. So what I'm doing here is I've got the wood glue, sticking it onto the cross beams and putting them in. This was a little bit fiddly, and there were a couple of edits where I lost my temper and because it all fell apart. But overall, yeah, it goes together quite nicely. But just for the pontoon, if you're doing it that way, make sure that you leave the center part where you put your supports on. Make sure they don't line up perfectly with either of the other sides, or else they will knock each other and you'll have gaps. So you want them all offset slightly. Hopefully that makes sense. This here reminds me of the game Operation. You can imagine it's going to be a buzzer if you do it wrong. And so yeah, the glue that I'm using is Gorilla wood glue, and it's very strong. Once it dries, well, at least I found it is very resilient. I've dropped things on the floor and they've stayed together, so yeah, big thumbs up from me. So yeah, that's the one thing about wood glue, is it does take time to dry, so you do have plenty of time to rearrange. Now I did chop a couple of the matchsticks up just to make posts on the corners of the right hand side and left hand side. You don't have to do this, but it just adds a little bit more flavour to the bridge once it's built, rather than just a flat bridge. So it's got a little bit of life to it. So I had this, I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's not foam core, but it's kind of like foam core. At work we've got signage boards which the vendors supply to us, and once they're finished, once the offer's expired, they go in the bin, but it's perfect stuff for making scenery, so I just chopped it up and made the banks there. In hindsight, I would probably make it a little bit wider, and that way there's more space to do a bit of scenery on either side, but these did fine. So here I'm using Sealy's polyfiller, basically, or tile grout, just to build up to the edges of the stream bank or what have you. And then once I've got enough on there, I make it slightly indented, so you can imagine there were either horses or carriages or something of that nature which have been along and just roughed up the edge, so it's not perfectly smooth. Then I did leave those overnight to dry, not because it takes a huge amount of time, but I was going out that evening. I think it only takes about an hour for it to dry nicely. Then I've got this cheap black paint, so I just base coated it by hand. Could have spray painted it, but I actually wanted to try and water down the black to sort of put a wash over the wood to try to go for a different texture, rather than the spray paint, which would have just blacked it out. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with the outcome, so I would recommend that for you. Either get a dark brown or a black, water it down, and just use it kind of like a wood stain. Yeah, as you can see, that's just the black once it's dried. Yeah, it comes up quite nicely. Then I go over it with a few different shades of brown, just dry brushing. So we've got the craft paint is brand Reeves's, and it's called just Raw Umber. That I got from the warehouse. There's also a system-free process yellow. I just used a little bit of that just to give it a bit of variety. Game colour, leather brown. As I was starting to get up towards the sort of the more highlighting of it, I used that colour brown. I also used game colour bone white for top highlights, and then around the edges, but also on the banks of the bridge, like the shoreline, I used a bit of German cam dark green from Model Colour, just as my sort of baselines. When you look at old wood, it's never just brown, it's always got different colours in it, some greens, greys, yellows, all sorts. So yeah, that's why I went for those colours. And so I wasn't going over the top, it was just dry brushing on for the most part, apart from the bank that I painted on properly because it was going to have flock over the top, so I wanted a better green underneath. But for the wood itself, yeah, just quick and dirty dry brushing just to get the job done. I guess it being wood, if you've got some wood stain, you could just stain it brown, and that would probably do the trick. But hey, depends how much effort you want to put into things. But no, I found this was it was an enjoyable project, and yeah, I'm probably going to make a few other bits similar to this, maybe even a slightly larger bridge which isn't pontoon, because yeah, I did enjoy it. Anyway, so now we get on to the flocking and the final making it look pretty. So here we're just using that wood glue again, and the first step up is I've got a load of sand, which I tend to use for basically my roading. Sorry, wrong order. First up, I've put the grass, the flock down. That's what I've got there. So I put the flock on the edges, and then in the track in the centre, that's where I put the sand, which is what I'm doing right here. And so that's kind of where the pathway is. And then you've got the grass flock on the edges, which I think is slightly more realistic. And then once that's down, I've got a variety of different bits and pieces that I wanted to try and see if they would actually work on the project. So I've got some static grass tufts, as you can see there. I had some small stones. I've got some homemade plum foliage, which I didn't actually use on this one, but I was thinking about. You can see that in the top corner. I also made some reeds out of an old paintbrush. So I tried to make it look nice, so it would blend into the environment and the battlefield. Yeah, you might see the camera angle changed. Yep, everything fell on the floor at one point, so it was a desperate scramble to try and recover stuff that had fallen underneath drawers and all sorts. Hence the camera got shoved out the way. But luckily, the wood glue held and it didn't break. Then on the little posts from earlier, I decided I would try and be really artistic and put some rope in. Just this kind of banister rails. It was trickier than I thought it was going to be. In hindsight, looking back, I would probably break, because this says the cord that you can buy from the hardware stores, I'd probably break it down into individual strands rather than the whole one, just because of the scale of the bridge. But overall, yeah, I'm very happy with the way it came out. It works for your 6mm. They are back of 6mm French Dragoons. That's a 15mm World War II. Obviously 28 Lord of the Rings Aragon. And then they are Callistra's sort of 12mm, so Warlord Games, Epic Battles scale. But overall, yeah, I think it came together really well, looks smart, does the job, gives me flexibility in gameplay. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and if you want to see me build anything next, let me know. Thanks guys.